Welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly thrilled to guide you through today's topic, because we are going to completely dismantle the myths surrounding startups, and honestly, we're going to deliver a masterclass on the actual practical mechanics of building a business. If you've ever felt like entrepreneurship is this mystical art reserved for some chosen few, well, you are in the right place. We're going to look at the hard data, strip away all that noise, and lay down a structured, step-by-step foundation based on MIT-level frameworks to help you build truly innovative enterprises. Okay, let's dive right in. Here is our roadmap for the day. First, we are debunking entrepreneurship myths. Then, defining true innovation. After that, we'll look at two types of entrepreneurship, figure out the single business prerequisite, and finally, we'll wrap up by mastering market segmentation.
All right, Section 1, Debunking Entrepreneurship Myths.
Before we can actually build anything, we gotta clear the site, right? So, I want to ask you directly, are you born an entrepreneur? Is it just wired into your DNA? Do you either have it or you don't? It's a really common story, but it's one we absolutely need to challenge right out of the gate. Let's look at what the research actually tells us.
So here we have the 6 biggest myths of entrepreneurship. Let's just walk through them. Myth number 1, they are the smartest in the room. This is simply not true. Most successful entrepreneurs aren't the valedictorians. Rather, they're just highly passionate about one specific thing, and they often ignore everything else. Number 2, they're these lone mercurial individuals. Well, research by Ed Roberts actually proves this is a team sport. Statistically, a team of 2 or 3 is way more likely to succeed than a solo founder. Number 3, born, not made. There is literally zero statistical correlation between having entrepreneurial parents and becoming one yourself. There's no secret entrepreneur gene. It is a learned skill. Number 4, they love blind risk. Totally false. Entrepreneurs actually hate casinos because they aren't in control. They love calculated risk. Take the famous MIT blackjack team, for example. They didn't gamble. They used asymmetric information to completely de-risk the game. They only took a risk when they had an unfair advantage. Number 5, they are incredibly charismatic. Research from the MIT Leadership Center shows charisma actually does not correlate with success. What really matters, vision, relationship building, and innovation engineering. And finally, number 6, they are undisciplined rebels. Actually, think about it, because you are the tiny attacker going up against massive, entrenched defenders who have all the cash and all the resources. You have to have an extraordinary amount of self-discipline just to survive.
To actually pull all of this off, you need a highly specific mindset. It's often described as having the spirit of a pirate, meaning you're creatively irreverent, you're looking to do something entirely new and innovative. But you absolutely must combine that with the execution skills of a Navy SEAL Team 6. It requires immense, almost militaristic self-discipline.
Moving on to Section 2, Defining True Innovation.
Now that those myths are completely out of the way, we can properly define what we're actually trying to achieve here. And the crucial formula is this: innovation equals invention times commercialization. Notice that it is a product, not a sum. What that means is, if either invention, the new idea or the technology, or commercialization, which is mapping that idea to a customer to generate value, if either one of those is 0, the resulting innovation is 0. An invention all by itself, like some patent just sitting collecting dust on a shelf, generates absolutely no value. Ideas are cheap. The magic only happens when that idea is multiplied by commercialization.
Think about Xerox PARC for a second. They are famous for their brilliant inventions, things like the computer mouse, the graphical user interface. But it was Apple who mastered the commercialization of those inventions. Apple didn't invent the MP3 format either, right? That was Fraunhofer. But Apple commercialized it with the iPod. They took those raw inventions and mapped them to a real customer in the real world, and that is where the massive, world-changing value was actually generated.
And this builds into a much broader landscape. Innovation is absolutely not just about dreaming up some disruptive new piece of technology. You can innovate on a process or, incredibly effectively, on a business model. Think about it. Google's massive value creation wasn't just having a search engine. It was the Google AdWords business model, charging for words instead of just basic banner real estate. Or look at iTunes. Before them, everyone was trying these clunky subscription models for digital music. Apple innovated just by charging 99 cents a song and letting you keep it. That simple business model shift was a monumental innovation. And sure, innovation can be disruptive, but it can also be incremental or even lateral, where you take a proven idea from one industry and just apply it to yours.
All right, Section 3, Two Types of Entrepreneurship.
Because look, not all businesses are playing the same sport. We really need to contrast two fundamentally different business types here. On one side, we have the SME, or small-medium enterprise. Think of your local pizza parlor or the neighborhood dry cleaner. They serve a local market, their growth is generally linear, and they're usually very tightly controlled by the owner. Now, this is vital to the economy, but it eventually taps out. On the other side, we have the IDE, or Innovation-Driven Enterprise. These are businesses targeting global or super-regional markets. Because they're built on an underlying innovation, their financial graph looks completely different. They actually lose cash initially, which means they require outside capital and shareholders. But if they work, they achieve that massive exponential hockey stick growth. It's kind of like comparing basketball to baseball. You might run and jump in both of them, but Michael Jordan's basketball training didn't make him a great baseball player, right? The training, the risk profile, the stakeholder management for an IDE, it is all entirely unique.
If you're gearing up to start an innovation-driven enterprise, there are really three main jumping-off points. First up is technology push. You have this brand new technology out of a lab, and you're searching for a market. It's basically a hammer looking for a nail. Second is market pull. This is where you intimately understand a specific industry's problem, and you are actively searching for the solution. And third is purely passion. You just desperately want to be an entrepreneur. But here's the catch. Passion alone just isn't enough. If you're starting purely with passion, you have to quickly join up with a team that has either a technology or a concrete idea if you actually want to succeed.
Which brings us to Section 4, the single business prerequisite.
Time for a quick reality check. It is so easy to get caught up in the intellectual debate of startups. Just imagine a student walking into an office, incredibly proud, presenting their highly complex nano-oscillation technology with carbon fiber tubing. They're bragging about how it reduces power consumption by 50%. But they completely missed the fundamental point. Compare that student to a little kid running a lemonade stand. The kid takes a lemon, adds sugar and water, and actually gets someone to hand them $1 for it. Between those two, the kid with the lemonade stand is the only one who actually has a real business.
So the ultimate definition is incredibly simple. A paying customer is the single necessary and sufficient condition for a business. It's not your fancy business plan, it's not having CEO in your email signature, and it is certainly not your cutting-edge technology. If you do not have someone literally giving you money for your product or offering, you are running a science fair. You're not running a business. Every single thing you do must work backward from that paying customer.
Finally, Section 5, Mastering Market Segmentation. Okay, we've got the foundation. Now, let's pivot to action. How do you actually go out and find those paying customers? Well, you systematically follow these steps. First, get your team in a room and brainstorm wildly out of the box. Literally, no idea is too crazy. You want to open the aperture completely. But sitting in a room just brainstorming isn't enough. Step 2 is fundamental. You have to conduct primary customer research. You cannot just download your eyes and ears from the internet or skim some Gartner report. You have to literally walk in the customer's shoes. Directly observe their rational, emotional, and social needs. And whatever you do, don't advocate for your product. Just listen. Once you have this massive list, step 3 is to narrow it down to about 6 to 8 really viable markets. Then, step 4, you execute a rigorous second push of primary market research focused entirely on just those chosen few.
To put this into perspective, let's look at a real-world scenario with Sensible Technologies. When they were in that brainstorming phase, they laid out wildly different applications for their new tech. I mean, they looked at entertainment, industrial design, medical visualization for GE CAT scans, surgical simulation, human-computer interfaces for the blind, and even molecular modeling. They spent weeks just digging down into every single one of these crazy opportunities. Yes, this takes a massive amount of upfront work, but the dividends are incredible. Because they took the time to explore every corner, when that team finally selected their target market, they were able to execute with the absolute highest level of confidence possible. And that brings us to the end of today's explainer. So you now know the formula. Innovation equals invention times commercialization. You know exactly which myths to avoid, and you absolutely know that your entire goal is to secure that paying customer. So I'm going to leave you with this final, vital question. Whose shoes will you walk in first? Because the first real step of your disciplined entrepreneurship journey starts with deeply, truly understanding the customer. Get out there, start observing, and honestly, I cannot wait to see what you build.